Українське незалежне радіо.
I'm going to blame you for getting me involved in this McDonald's thing because I showed up at the headquarters half an hour after they announced that they're suspending operations in Russia. Congratulations on your grassroots effort.
I think they heard you coming, Danilo. I think they heard you coming and they immediately said, Joey, we got to do something here because we're about to, it's getting bad. So I thank you for doing it.
I don't know about that, but here, well, it was the first domino, right? There was a Starbucks followed suit. There were some others, weren't there?
Yeah, so within hours, we saw, of course, McDonald's made the announcement, Starbucks within 2 hours, then we saw Coca-Cola and PepsiCo all agreeing to suspend operations in Russia. And I think that those dominoes are going to continue hitting. KFC earlier in the day yesterday announced that they were going to suspend all future investments in Russia, which quite frankly is a bit of a nonsensical thing to say, because I don't think a lot of companies are investing big money in Russia right now anyway, but they were going to continue operating their stores. They've now reversed course and said, we are also going to suspend all stores that they have control over. So McDonald's had probably more control than any of them because they own, I think, over 85% of their stores directly. So they choose whether they operate. I think the franchisees have a bit harder time, but either way, when they're announcing cutting support, it just has built these little raindrops into a torrent of water, showing how the rest of the world and the companies in this world are standing with Ukraine right now.
So, okay, they're not selling hamburgers and chicken in Russia anymore through American stores. What difference does it make to this whole thing that's going on, the war, ordinary Russians even?
You know, and this is my humble opinion, but I think this war can only end in one of two ways. The first way is the Russian economy is no longer able to finance this war. The Russian soldiers on the ground in Ukraine are not fighting for a good cause. They're not fighting for freedom. They're fighting for a paycheck, and they're demoralized, cold, wet, and hungry. And if they were to now learn that the rubles they're being paid are worth toilet paper, that is one easy and quick way for this to end. The second way is for the Russian populace to really rise up against Vladimir Putin and say, we don't want to live in the 1970s anymore. We like our iPhones and Western brands and the ability to fly to the world, and we don't want to be seen as the pariah of the world for the atrocities that you have unleashed on Ukraine and their army. The way to facilitate either of these is to increase the economic pain on Russia. There are a lot of Russian people who are already out in the streets protesting, but I would say the majority is still either too scared or not certain about doing that. These actions are the direct reason why the stock market in Russia has now been closed for an 8th business day in a row, unprecedented. Even after September 11th, the United States had to reopen its stock market on the 5th day. So what we're seeing is history in the making, and these Western companies' actions are a very big part of why the stock market will remain closed in Russia, and why they're now even banning Russians from buying dollars, because they realize what's going to happen to the ruble the minute they open that stock market.
So that they're keeping it closed strategically just for that, to protect the narrative and to maybe protect the ruble, but it's inevitable, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, there are some banks and Russian companies that are publicly traded in the West. They have turned into penny stocks within minutes. So you see some large banks and some large energy companies traded on London, traded in New York or others. They had to halt trading on them because they literally went to pennies from dozens of dollars. So that cratering effect is exactly, in my humble opinion, why the stock market remains closed, because it will wipe off probably 80+% of the value within minutes or hours.
So how is Yaroslav Heckman on the East Coast, a young man such as yourself, taking part in influencing any of these world events?
I'm not going to oversell absolutely anything that I or my teammates here have done. The fact that we're at the White House for what will be now 13 days in a row today, or the fact that we have been boycotting McDonald's stores or calling media or doing everything we can to the outreach, is just one small droplet of water. But when you look at it, all these droplets of water in aggregate form buckets and rivers. So it's not Sean Penn's announcement against Pepsi and Coca-Cola that made this happen. It's not the announcements all over the world or the boycott McDonald's movement on Twitter or boycott Coca-Cola. It's the compilation of all of them, including, of course, yourself and everyone going to the McDonald's headquarters yesterday. It all combined to show these companies, and frankly, the US government as well. I mean, we were not willing to ban imports of Russia oil for almost 2 weeks until over 70% of Americans and Poles began demanding it with letters and proclamations, bipartisan across both aisles, saying we are willing to take the pain. And my point is, it's all these actions taken together that have made an impact. And that's what I'm proud of. I'm proud of the fact that together we've been able to make this impact.
So what's next? Are you doing this grassroots, or is the CIA financing you? I'm sure that'll make its way to Russian media eventually.
You know, I will say, we were at a McDonald's 2 days ago. You know, we were standing on the street corners and, you know, yelling our hearts out and had signs, and a bus pulled up. And this actually almost brought me to tears. The bus started leaving the bus stop, and then it stopped, and the doors opened, and this lady ran out and she gave $5 to one of our demonstrators. And then as the bus was leaving, another man ran out and he gave $10 to the demonstrators, you know, and he was like, guys, use this however you can. We support you. We stand with Ukraine. And these were not Ukrainians. These were just Americans who were following that famous quote that says, in order for evil to prevail, all it takes is for good men to stand by and do nothing. And it's people like that who are showing the difference. Now, what I'm telling you is, to date, all of these grassroots protests have had a total of $50 donated to us. And we're not looking for money. We all have food to eat. We all have places to sleep. This isn't financed by anyone. This is just us taking our own time into our hands. We've been very supported by our employers, who have given us the leeway to say, look, do your job as well as you can, but take the time you need to save your homeland. And been very proud of and happy with that. But at the end of the day, this isn't something being financed by anyone. This is something that is a grassroots movement that will continue. So to your question of what's next, you know, we're taking a look at what companies are left. So we have cutbusinesstieswithrussia.com. Honestly, we've yet to update the website with all the announcements coming through. So that will be happening today. But by tomorrow, we will see who's holding out. So far, we've heard silence from companies like Marriott, an organization based on that has a lot of faith-based leaders, which is shocking to us. So, you know, we will reevaluate, and if there are companies, whether it's Marriott or Kimberly-Clark or Nestle or others who have held out, then we will continue bringing the movement to them until they all realize that the cost of not doing the right thing is tarnishing your reputation all over the world.
All right, well, give us that website name again. We'll put it in a link to in the description here below this video, so people can follow what you're doing. I hope you stay in touch with me too, and we can follow along and see where you're going to be next and what you're going to be up to. Sure,
yeah, it's called cutbusinesstieswithrussia.com. I will say there are other sites. There's a site by a well-known Yale professor that's tracking what each company is doing that's even more comprehensive and not trying to take ownership of, you know, being the true source of who's doing what. But in this site, we were just trying to call out the major brands and how they're acting one way or the other.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you speaking with me. Stay in touch. I hope to hear from you again soon.
Likewise. Thank you for your time.
Українське незалежне радіо.